Hi everyone, I'm Sean from Team Ricochet Airsoft, and today we're going to be interviewing the G&P Stoner 63 Mark 23. Before we actually get into the review, we're going to give you a brief history of the Stoner 63 series. The Stoner 63 series were a very limited production weapon that was used in the Vietnam era by the US Navy SEALs. The gun set out to be a true LMG with its lightweight, high ammo count, and high rate of fire. One thing that really helped separate the Stoner 63 from the other guns at the time was its modularity and its flexibility with interchangeable parts. It also had a unique system where you could actually change the rate of fire. You could have it set to low for 700 rounds per minute, or you could have a medium setting of 830 rounds per minute, or have it cranked up all the way with gas at 865 rounds per minute. Now, obviously, if you are lucky enough to own one of the few real steel Stoners alive, you would never want to do this, as it would play right into the Stoner's weaknesses. The Stoner failed because it was an expensive, complex, and a high-maintenance weapon. The gun didn't like dirt, it didn't like mud, which was pretty unfortunate for its time because in Vietnam you dealt with dirt, mud, rain, and everything else the jungle could throw at you. Okay, so now that we've given you a brief history of the Stoner 63 series, we're going to actually go into our review for the G&P Stoner 63 Mark 23. One of the first things I noticed about this weapon is it's not big. It's 930 millimeters with a 440 millimeter one-piece barrel, so the gun is actually a tad bit shorter than an M16 by 70 millimeters if you wanted to be specific. The gun does come with everything that you see here. It does come with a 1200 round auto-winding box magazine. The box magazine is powered by a 9.6 volt battery, so you can pretty much go to any store you want to and pick those up. They're not overly expensive. There are a couple complaints that I have about the box magazine. The box magazine is made out of pretty cheap plastic. I mean, it's not enough to deter from the looks of the gun, but it is kind of annoying. The box magazine also has a pretty difficult feed tray that you feed the BBs into when you're loading it. For me, it actually kind of tears my fingers up a little bit, so you may just want to take a thin, flat screwdriver and pry it open with that. But other than that, the box magazine works fine. I've never had any problems with feeding. It feeds down to the very last 20 to 40 BBs, and it will keep up with you no matter how much fire you're putting down. I've had 30 to 60 second spurts with this gun in suppression fire, and it still will keep up. It doesn't miss a beat. The magazine itself is actually an ingenious design. It's held in a cradle, and it provides for a very easy removal and entry of a new box magazine. All you have to do, pop open the top feeding tray, and you'll see the actual auto-winding mechanism for the gun. It has a switch. Right now it's down, if you can see, and that means it's locked in position. All you have to do is pop it up. It comes forward. You can slide the box mag out, pop in a fresh one, run it back up here, clamp it back onto its restrictors, close the feeding tray, and you're good to go. It's a very simple process in the field. G&P has great credit for it, and it's a brilliant design, really. The gun has actually phenomenally accurate construction. G&P took their time in constructing this weapon. Believe me, I've been following it ever since it first came out, hoping for the day that I could place an order on it sooner or later. And the gun is full metal construction inside and out. The metal parts include the receiver, the feeding tray, the gas tube, the fluted one-piece barrel, which is obviously just for show. Airsoft guns do not benefit from a fluted barrel. And also the cradle for the box mag, the inner gearbox, and takedown points of the gun are full metal. The rest of it is a nylon plastic. And some people have problems with plastic, but it's just putting plastic where it was on the real Stoner. And the nylon plastic for this gun is very nice to look at, it's pleasing to touch, and it is durable. I've beaten this gun all over the place, and plastic doesn't have hardly any marks on it. The gun's battery compartment is housed in the stock. It fits a large type battery, but not just any large type battery. It has to have a Dean's connector, which actually was a nice change for most suppression weapons. I kind of like the Dean's connector, to be perfectly honest. To get to the battery compartment, you're going to have two screws in the back of the gun. They stay in the butt plate even if you do unscrew them. Once you remove the butt plate, you slide the battery into the stock and connect it. The stock is actually one of my favorite things about this gun. It doesn't make any noises. The only noises you're going to hear is from the actual sling mount, and that's just because it's a sling mount. So the stock itself is big enough to actually hold a 9.6 volt battery and not even bat an eye. I mean, I was actually a little worried about it, but it fits my 3300 millihertz 9.6 volt battery with absolutely no issues whatsoever. The gun is rated to be 360 FPS out of the box, and that's with .2 BBs, obviously. I have never personally used .2 BBs in this gun for more than about 200 to 300 rounds, and I realized that .2s are just a little bit light for the gun. I personally use .25s, and with .25s, this gun chronos at 336 FPS. So if you want to factor in the difference of weight between a .2 and a .25, then this gun is averaging 366 feet per second, so it's right there with its claimed 360 FPS out-of-the-box performance. The gun is actually astonishingly accurate for a suppression weapon. Not so much in semi-automatic, but in fully auto, it does lay down BBs in a tight grouping, and if you hit a guy once with a BB, he's getting followed immediately by multiple others. The gun does come with a M120 high-speed motor. There's a reason why G&P uses the M120 high-speed motor. It is a reliable motor that puts out good performance. This gun will actually do 900 BBs in a minute, so that's 15 BBs a second, which is not the greatest out there, but it is still pretty good. And it's a continuous feed of BBs. It's good enough for a suppression weapon. There is one complaint I do have with the M120 high-speed motor. This isn't the only gun I have that has an M120, but they all seem to create a lot of warmth when firing a lot of rounds in a short period of time. And at first it worried me a lot, but given the fact that my other guns with the M120 high-speed motor do the exact same thing, and some of those are 4 years old and they're still kicking and running like new, I'm guessing it's just part of what comes with the motor, just warmth. But it is something to note. There is one gripe that I have with the gun as a whole. I am a realism buff, and as you can tell, the charging handle is on the bottom of the gun, and I can pull it back, but it's not satisfying in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't do anything, so I kind of wish G&P actually made it a more satisfying motion. But that also seems to be a trait of G&P, as the other weapons that I own from G&P, the charging handles are very unsatisfying to hold. They may as well just fix them. So now that we have gone over the full out-of-the-box impression and what it comes with, let's go shoot some targets and test its rate of fire, its FPS, damage, and accuracy. Hi, we're doing the field test portion for the G&P Stoner 63 Mark 23. I'm going to be engaging 3 different targets. The first target is the closest tree at 120 feet. The next target is the second tree over with the white target at 160 feet, and the final target is at 190 feet. And it may be a little bit hard to see from this particular zoom. I'm going to engage each target at semi-automatic and then switch to full auto. After I finish this portion, I'll provide 2 more segments with more close views, just so you can see the BB trajectories a little bit better. But for now, let's start it up and see how the gun... The semi-automatic has an effective range of barely 120 feet. I wouldn't use it beyond this. Other than that, I'd stick to full auto. Let's try full auto at 120 feet. No real problems reaching out at a target at 120 feet. Let's try the 160-foot target. As stated earlier, the gun's accuracy in semi-automatic is at 120 feet. After that, you're going to want to stick to full auto. So we're going to engage the last 2 targets at 160 feet and 190 feet in full auto and give you a better close-up. This target that I'm shooting at now is the 160-foot. Again, the naked eye for me, it's not that hard to tell that the BBs are indeed reaching the 160-foot marker. And finally, let's go out to the 190-foot marker. no real problems with the 190-foot marker. Now I'm going to back up a little bit further, increase the distance by a few feet, and give you a more zoomed up version so you can see the BB trajectories a little bit better. Okay, so the two targets in front of you, the one to your left is a 160-foot marker. The one to your right is actually 190 feet exactly from where I'm standing. I'm going to first engage the 160-foot marker in full auto, and then I will switch to the 190-foot marker in full auto. So, no real problems reaching out to either one of those targets. And that concludes the field test portion. So we've changed location again. The three targets behind me are the same three targets that I was engaging. As you can tell from the close-ups, the Stoner does lose some of its accuracy starting at 160 feet. You can definitely see the BBs begin to drop. At 190 feet, you can see me arcing the gun just a little bit to get the extra distance. I'd say the gun's maximum effective range is 210 feet. That's probably the most I've tried to engage somebody. Everything after that was a good amount of arc to the gun, and people aren't really going to notice their hits at all beyond 210 feet. So now I'm going to collect all three targets, and let's see what we get. Okay, so at 120 feet, you can definitely see that the clusters are pretty good. This is obviously on 3 different bursts. That's why there's so many puncture marks. But actually on the back of this, you can see a little bit of tree sap. So 120 feet, semi and full is highly effective. At 160 feet, you can see the accuracy really fades. You only had about 2-3 shots that actually pierced the target. And you got a couple almost punctures here, and then you got some dimples from where the BBs hit, but not particularly enough to make any kind of dent whatsoever. And the final one is 190 feet. I don't really know how this happened, but apparently one of them actually managed to make it through the target. And you can see a couple of dimples here, 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 here. So the dimples tell us that someone's still going to notice the hit. So in conclusion, for the Stoner 63 Mark 23, we have a phenomenal suppression weapon for $550, and that is with shipping and handling and the box magazine. It offers upper echelon performance for a very decent and respectable price. The gun is full middle construction. Outside it has a 8mm gearbox. Inside that is full metal and very similar to a version 2 construction. And the gun itself is light where it doesn't break your arms. It's accurate even up to distances at 190 feet where you can actually puncture a target with it. It's got a great rate of fire, and all around I'm going to have to give this gun a 9.5 out of 10. The only problems I have with it is the box magazine being a little bit cheap in construction, the loading feed mechanism being a little bit difficult to open up, kind of tears your fingers up a little bit, or at least mine does, and the charging handle on the bottom. I wish that they made it a little bit satisfying to pull back, but other than that, I honestly couldn't be happier. It's got a great rate of fire,